Smooth 98.1. Here we are gone past 7:30, and it is freshly pressed time where we get into the news analysis on some of the major stories that we have going on affecting the nation and, Nigeria in general. All right, so joining me for today's freshly pressed, by the way, we are streaming up on youtube.com/smooth 981 FM Lagos. I've got Cheta Waze in. Good morning, Cheta. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Fantastic
Been
to
a
see
while.
you. Been a while, so it's really great to have you on, and I'm sure the people are going to agree. Make sure you send your WhatsApp messages in on 0809 and we are taking tweets as well at smooth981 FM on Twitter, and Cheta's handle, he is at Chickster, CHXTA. Okay, so Cheta, lots to discuss. So first of all, let's start off in Rivers. This is an interesting one from the Punch newspaper. Headline reads, Politicians recruiting cultists to destabilize Rivers. That's the state governor, Nyesom Wike, saying that the state has obtained these intelligence reports that some misguided politicians have started recruiting cultists, ex-convicts, and thugs in furtherance of their political aspirations for 2023. And in a statement that was released by his media aide, on yesterday night, the governor warned that the state government will pull down hotels and other entertainment places that are linked with such criminal political activities. Well, what say you?
It's too early for Wiki to be sending me back to bed at an early time in the morning. I saying this is very boring. So Wiki is saying that cultists and politicians, blah blah blah, in Rivers are in cahoots for the election. It's kind of like saying the sun rose this morning.
Mm.
The, the it's a thing in Rivers, and it has been for a long time. And even Wike himself is not necessarily clean. In 2015, in May 2015, the National Human Rights Commission under Professor Chidi Odinkalu published a report that showed that 10 members of cults had been elected into the Rivers State House of Assembly at the time. That was 7 years ago. And all indications show that it has increased. Gang members have in many respects ingrained themselves into the very political fabric of Rivers States. There are two reports that you can consult if you want to understand where Rivers is in terms of its culture of political violence and political gang activity. The first one was from Human Rights Reports, Human Rights Watch, which was published in March 2008. Yeah, March 2008. The title of that report is Politics as War. Pages 12 to 15 of that report give a breakdown of how cult groups, which are essentially gangs, have become a part and parcel of election practice in Rivers States. The second report is from SBM Intelligence, which was published in June 2020. It's titled Rivers of Blood. Note there's a 12-year gap in between both reports.
And has there been a status difference between that?
There's no state in the 12-year gap. Things got worse. The SBM reports showed how the gangs now have an economic chokehold on Rivers State. And again, like the Human Rights Commission reports 6 years earlier, how they have transited into becoming political leaders. And let's not forget that in 2017, I don't remember when in 2017, but it was in 2017, Wike himself made Ateke Tom, a former militant and gang-led leader, the king of Okoche in Rivers State. So what is he talking about?
So for Wike to come out and say this at this specific moment in time, what are your thoughts on that in terms of his rationale?
My thoughts is that he should open his Bible and read Matthew 7, chapter 5, Matthew chapter 7, verse 5.
Okay. Are you gonna, for those of us who do not know the Bible or do not have the Bible on them?
Let people open the Bible, open their Bibles and read Matthew chapter 7, verse 5.
Not everyone listening is a Christian, but okay. So let's move on now. We'll take this next headline. It comes in fact, the next couple of stories are really about the different forums and groups talking to the federal government. Now, we've got the first one from the state governors as a whole. From the Daily Post, Nigerian governors under fire for advising Buhari to retire civil servants above 50 years. So we saw labor unions and members of the organized private sector, coming out to really kick against the suggestions from the Nigeria Governors Forum. Now, they had proposed a measure as part of coordinated efforts to instill fiscal discipline and prevent the country from imminent economic collapse. But then labor unions and organized private sector came out and said, well, in effect, that the federal government cannot be trusted with the payment of severance benefits to workers whose jobs would be put online should those proposals be taken up. Now, there were other measures that were proposed from that forum. But first of all, I want to get your take and your response to this.
So, the chap who condemns the NGF stuff is Professor Musa Shuaibu of Bayero University. And I agree with him completely. The idea to retire all civil servants above the age of 50 is harebrained, and that's me being polite about it. The political class, and this includes the governors, need to cut down their own costs. Let's start with that. They haven't cut down their costs. As a matter of fact, there's every evidence that they are increasing their costs, adding more, living a more flamboyant lifestyle. I mean, we saw a video recently of the APC youth leader with a convoy and sirens and mobile policemen. This is youth leader. So rather than rather than telling all of us to tighten our belts and all of that stuff, why don't they start from themselves? After all, their Baba said change begins with me. Now, from this whole perspective of wholesale retirements of civil servants, we've been here before. Back in 1975, Murtala Muhammad retired everybody from, I think, grade level 12 and above with immediate effects. That singular action, the damage it did, Nigeria has still not recovered from it. Doing such damage now would probably be worse, because yes, the civil service has a lot of inefficiencies, is corrupt and all of that, but you can't take away the fact that many of the older guys in the civil service have experience. They know where the landmines are. They know where when you need to do some kind of negotiations and all of that, they know what to do. That experience is
In
very
fact, age
vital.
comes before beauty.
You can't just wholesale wipe it out. And again, this is because Nigerians don't do nuance very well. We have to put that caveat that yes, the civil service is not up to par, but you have to do the hard work of identifying the good ones and keeping them so that they can hand over to people who can do the job. Given the way Nigeria is, I'm not sure that is. I mean, they are just opting for the lazy man's approach of wholesale firing.
Now,
having said that, there's one fundamental thing that Professor Shuaibu misses, and a lot of people miss. The governors this is a cry for help. The country is bankrupt. And the civil service is probably second to fuel subsidy is probably our biggest cost center. The fuel subsidy is our biggest cost center. So the governors making this suggestion, they are just crying for help. Money no day.
Speaking about this, some other measures that they had talked about included the implementation of the updated Oronsoye reports. They also said putting an end to the Central Bank of Nigeria's financing of the government's budgetary expenditures and converting the 19 trillion naira debt into a 100-year bond. Also talked about elimination of petrol subsidy and elimination of NNPC's federation-funded projects, as well as a capping of the social investment program and the national poverty reduction with growth budgets to 200 billion naira from 570 billion naira, amongst other things. I mean, do any of those?
They didn't call for removal of security votes.
No,
okay.
Does not seem like.
Shall we move on? They are not serious people.
Oh, Cheta, it's good to have you back. We've got messages in already. Do remember, not just on WhatsApp, you can also use our YouTube platform and our Twitter platform as well. I'll take this one, first one in from Tonya from Magodo, who says, I'll be frank. At this point, I'm convinced that Wiki is just an enemy of the built environment. Pulling down hotels and event centers, said with three question marks. Shouldn't the logical thing be to get the law enforcement agencies to arrest, prosecute, and convict the guilty parties if they break the law? What have the buildings done? You know, well, that's a very, very good question, Tonya. We've got this one in from Pinto, who is loving your presence, as well as, okay, Nero Cello from Ogudu says, Wike's alarm is not new to us. They always hire these guys every election. It's the only way they win. Some of these top leaders are
Thank you.
part of these groups. And
Thank you.
we've also got messages coming in from Emeka, from Zen. Who else? Now, let's see. And from this no-name number. All right, so Fabian from Ekpe says, Chesa, thank you for your analysis regarding the Governors Forum. They're always frequently looking at things superficially rather than looking at the root cause of a problem. They should cut off their own spending as well as their special assistance. So many special assistants, Fabian. Shagun says, congratulations to our female athletes at the Commonwealth Games. Love it. Yes,
See,
congratulations to them.
the way Lola has been carrying shoulder for me, as in asking what a Nigerian man good for, and I cannot answer.
Cheta, you need to listen to an episode of Locker Room. Recently, it has been interesting. So Shekin says, when we're fixated on the religious and ethnic tickets of political parties, why haven't we seriously thought of a male-female presidential ticket? It seems as though the women don't matter, but they are half of the population and could get better and could deliver better governance. All right, Shekin, thank you for that. Dak Balawal says Hacheta is spot on about the civil servants, whilst Roland is welcoming you back. And Abayami has come in with the verse saying, hypocrites, first remove the plank from your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Thank you, Abayami, from all the people who didn't know that verse. All right, we move on now away from the Governor's Forum. We've got this one in from the Vanguard newspaper. Act fast to save economy. That is what the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association
Oh,
and the Nigeria Economic Summit Group are saying. And why would that be your response to this? Because they're asking for
see,
reforms.
I don't even know where to start on this one. It's boring. I find it rather rich that NECA and the NESG are speaking up now that the horse has not only left the stable, but is now quietly chewing grass in another farm. Is it because Buhari is now clearly a lame duck and also clearly no longer cares? It's just doing his retirement laps that people are suddenly finding their voices. Where were they when Buhari was doing the damage by closing our borders and making CBN to break all sorts of laws? Where were they when unemployment reached 33% 2 years ago? Have they asked for another unemployment survey since then? We don't even know how many unemployed people we have. Where were they when inflation was running rampant all over the place? I beg you, let's move on to the next thing. These
I'm
guys are
sorry, Cheta,
boring
we
me.
can say where were they, just like a lot of people have been saying of the people who are now registering or who have now registered for their voters cards, where were they? But guess what? They've turned up now. Are you saying
Shopware,
it's
there are
too
some
late?
political scientists listening to this show. They can tell you about lagging effects. See, it is dishonest for them to say the economy is on the brink. Sorry, it has fallen off the fiscal cliff. We are just waiting to land Yakata for ground. And then when we land, we can put the pieces back together if we have anything of if we are not Humpty Dumpty. But it don't break, it don't break. So they're shouting after we have jumped over the cliff. What is our debt service to revenue ratio? 119%, which, to put it in stark terms, for every naira Nigeria earns now, we are using 1 naira 19 kobo to pay BC already. It don't dabaru, it don't dabaru.
No, that
Let's
doesn't
tell
seem
ourselves
like
the
great
truth.
mathematics, does it? All right. And messages still in this one from Yummy, who says, hold on one second to let me try and get that in. Well, whilst I'm waiting to get the messages in, you know what we're gonna do? We'll take a break and then I'll line up your messages, read them out when we get back, along with other stories that we've got for you right here on Freshly Pressed. Keep it tuned. Point one. Countless semesters burns the midnight candle, but you made it. And now it's time for you to show. All right, YouTube. I am coming to check out your messages. Ah. Oh, Cheta, so Sifre Ashe has said, it's great to have you back. Please try and avoid such prolonged and unexplained absences. Hmm.
Igbo
And
pay.
yes, Sifre, are you paying? If you're not, let's appreciate. Okay, says Cheta, welcome. There have been a number of welcome messages actually. So this one I'm seeing right before we go back on. We'll go back. We'll go on after this. From Adenike Adele, who says Cheta will not kill someone who we don't fall Yakata, but it's really true. Um, let me have a look at who else I've got. And Abayomi says, Cheta, how can you call a sitting president a lame duck?
Okay, oh, he's not a lame duck. He's a lame chicken.
And we're back. And still on YouTube. Smooth 98.1 here. We are 48 minutes gone past 7 o'clock. Getting back into the messages as Adenike Adele bursts a gut. At Cheta's expression, saying, Cheta, well, we don't fall Yakata, but really, it is true. Dami from Ikeja says the summary of our problems is that our political class is not yet ready to create a better Nigeria. And it's a known fact that the Borno election thugs eventually became the first class of Boko Haram. As it is in Rivers, so it is in Oyo, Lagos, and other states across the country. And Twale Ogacheta, it's always a pleasure, says Danny. All right, so I also see your messages up on YouTube, and Sifre and Uke, thank you for the welcomes. And Ulua Femi Joseph says, it's like people can't handle the truth that Cheta speaks. And yet a number of people are following him just for that truth. So, well, for his truth. Okay, so let's get back into the next few headlines and articles. So this one in from the Punch, UK Museum to return 72 looted Benin bronzes. Now that's the Horniman Museum and Gardens in Southeast London. It's agreed to return these 72 artifacts. We've got about 12 brass plaques known as the Benin bronzes, a brass cockerel altarpiece, ivory and brass ceremonial objects, and so on and so forth. Fantastic news, wouldn't you say, Cheta?
To be honest, I don't know where to stand on this. Theoretically, it's fantastic news and all of that, but and especially as someone who comes from Benin, I mean, I grew up in Benin in the 1980s when there was still a generation around. I remember Pa Obaze, my Edo teacher, who used to talk a lot about how their heritage was stolen and all of that. I completely understand the hurt that many Edo people of a certain generation feels over the loss of these treasures 125 years ago now. But having said that, some of the facts on the ground make me pause. Nigerians of the modern age do not appreciate arts. And given the prevailing poverty in the country, we are likely to see one big man just pilfer these treasures and sell them off. And poverty is not always just about money. It can be also poverty of the mind. So let me tell a story. Back in 1973, when Gowon was head of state, he got an invitation to Buckingham Palace to visit Mama Charlie. And guess how that artifact went? He had the invitation, wanted to give Mama Charlie something priceless. One Saturday morning, he called Epo Ayo, who at the time was the head of the Department of Antiquities at the Lagos Museum, and simply said he was coming to the museum to choose a gift for the Queen. Dr. Ayo got there, as in immediately dressed up and rushed down to the museum because he suspected. And he had managed to remove some of the finest items on display and put them in storage an hour before Gowon arrived. But he hadn't removed everything. As he suspected, the moment Gowon arrived, he went straight for the best item on display and removed it. And that's what he gave to the Queen. Do you know what the artifact was? An original 400-year-old Benin bronze. Do you know how many regulations Gowon broke in doing that? Just export license regulations. There's one about rare antiquities, rare artifacts, and all of that. He broke multiple regulations doing that just because he was head of state. But let us ask, could Dr. Ayo have stopped him? No. Can Zainab Ahmed stop Buhari from dashing overinflated SUVs to Niger Republic? She said in a press conference last week that she can't. So that thing is still there. That thing where a big man wants to do something and nobody can stop him, he will do it. I fear that that will be the fate of those bronzes, that they will just still end up relooted, this time by our people, and we will not be able to get them back. That's my fear. Other than that, it's a feel-good story.
But at the end of the day, they are ours
They are
to.
ours, and
Yes.
nobody's questioning that. But what will we do with them? That's what
Now
I'm
that
I'm
is the
afraid of
question.
that. Yes.
Well, hopefully we will conserve them and put them in places where people can come and appreciate, and maybe even be able to commercialize upon this, have a great museum and artifact, I don't know, collection, and maybe have people from around the world come. I'm just putting that out there. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, taking a look at this article in from The Guardian now. Monarchs and youths urge federal government and IOCs to release the NDDC's $5.6 billion. So they're saying that this is accumulated money that's being owed to the Niger Delta Development Commission. And according to them, they need this for the new Minister of the Niger Delta Affairs to be able to go through and reposition and implement the board's newly developed roadmap. But they're saying that right now, all the money that's coming in monthly can only go towards payments of salaries and maintenance of the office.
Again, this is another story of the country being broke, being bankrupt, money no day. But there was a time when my position would have been an uncompromising no to the Niger Delta people, that your leaders have proven that they don't know how to handle the money. But that position sounds hollow, given that the FG has proven without any ambiguity whatsoever that it also does not know how to handle money. So why should the FG be the one trying to be paternal when it's the same disease that is worrying its children? I beg, we should release these people's money to them so that all of them they can chop to stupor. Maybe when the treasury is completely empty, all of us will finally have sense.
It's quite concerning seeing the way that money is still being handled, considering the situation that we're in, and considering the
Uh,
fact that people just on ground, whether or not you are watching what is going on, you are being affected by it.
yeah, it's concerning, but I think I've gotten to a stage personally where I've just given up. So let everything just end, scatter, and then maybe when that happens, we'll have sense because we are behaving like people that have no sense. There's no other way to put it.
Well, people, now I want to know what your opinion is on Cheta's opinion, because I don't want to be in that situation where everything goes, where the country is bankrupt. What happens
It
then?
already is. Is it
It's
until
technically
somebody
not.
announces that? See, I don't like all these technicalities because it's technicalities that they use to justify all the nonsense. For a lot, Shokpe, I've been coming to this station for years and I've been
Mm.
shouting that, oh, our finances are dire and all of that stuff. We should be careful. And people were saying, oh, our debts to GDP ratio is good. Our debt to GDP ratio is good. We use technicalities to justify nonsense. That's one of our problems.
No, we've seen what's happening with our reserve accounts, and it's not great.
In
Um,
reality, we are bankrupt. Forget technicalities. See, the
well,
only
technicality
reason
is
why
the difference between being able to get loans and
nay, forget
help.
that thing. See the people that we could, the only we can't, we see the interest rates we are getting loans at now.
Hmm.
We can't afford it anymore. And it's for years. It is just, again, repeat that political science step, lagging effects. Wahala don't bust, but now
We're
only
yet
like
to
some
feel
years
it.
time people go see them, but it has already happened.
Dami from Ikeja says the story about the return of the Benin artifacts reminds me of the debt forgiveness that Obasanjo negotiated in the early 2000s. Considering our current fiscal situation, I wonder where the savings went. And BDA says Nigeria is a country where we throw away the baby with the bathwater. We ban Okada because of terrorists. We sack the whole civil service because a number are inefficient and we're too lazy to gather intelligence and do the work. There's a scarcity of sound thinking in our government. So please, 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 let's leave the artifacts and arts in Europe and earn a royalty, says B from Lucky. Interesting one. Kazim says, oh, Cheta, I always love your unbiased, elaborate, and punchy perspective to issues. The artifacts to be returned will only end up being stolen or missing, unfortunately. Boss Bosun from Surulere says this. Okay, give me 1 second. There we go. Also from Cyril Leary says, I agree with Chickster. We really don't need these artifacts coming back to Nigeria because most Nigerians don't appreciate these arts and will eventually, if they will eventually be stolen. Rather, I suggest we go into a joint venture with these, with the museums that are returning them or that want to return them, that seem to appreciate them more than us, and then get royalties, an indirect form of export proceeds. Interesting, interesting,
Brilliant idea,
interesting.
actually.
Okay. All right then. That's a new one. All right, and let's bring things back to Lagos before we end the show. From the Vanguard newspaper, we're building on security architecture to secure Lagos. That's what the state governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has said, saying that his administration has taken proactive steps in building on the regular security architecture to secure the state. Considering the fact also that we've been hearing reports of dire things coming to Lagos. Cheta, what would you say to this?
I appreciate the sentiments, but Governor Sanwo-Olu should be careful with the backslapping. See, the key element of security, or the two key elements of security that consistently state governments in Nigeria miss, not just state governments, even the federal government, dispensation of justice and proper intelligence gathering. And both are completely missing in Lagos. So you can see it in the way criminality spreads. So in our last quarterly report of violence in Nigeria, 17 states were actually safer than Lagos. I can list them: Sokoto, Akwa Ibom, Ebonyi, Enugu, Bayelsa, Kano, Kwara, Adamawa, Abia, Bauchi, Oyo, Yobe, Ogun, Osun, Nasarawa, Gombe, and Jigawa. In our May report that looked at mob violence across the country from 2019 until mid-May 2022, we found that the Southwest is by some distance the most violent geopolitical zone in terms of incidents of mob violence, where Lagos alone accounts for 12% of all incidents of mob violence in the country. Think about it this way. Officially, Lagos has 6.4% of Nigeria's population, but 12% of mob violence cases. You can't afford to be backslapping. All these cases with justice and proper intelligence gathering, that particular facet of insecurity in Lagos can be brought down significantly. And I've just focused on one because of time.
My goodness. Well, because of time, we've got to end the show, but I'll be ending them on your messages coming in on YouTube. B saying it's great to have you back, Cheta, and I feel your pain and agree. Maybe when everything is completely scattered, we will then borrow some sense. Whilst Frank has come in with the verse, and Metro says, I enjoyed the story that Cheta told about Gowon and the Benin Bronze. Glad to have him back, and I hope he won't run away. He didn't run away. In fact, you can find him on social media. He's at Chickster. Follow him. You will know what's going on in his life. And that is that, Cheta. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you back to discuss what's going on within the nation and affecting the
Country,
world's
not nation.
perception.
Country, not nation.
I choose to say nation. At the end of the day,
Country.
we're all left with one
Geographical
another.
expression.
At the end of the day, the way everyone sees us is we're all left with one another. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We shall continue this discussion off air. Thank you,
All
Cheta.
right.